Okay, Reusse Unchained. Well, we got to talk some Wolves. Big night for the Vikings last night in a bunch of different ways in the Super Bowl. So, Vikings or Wolves? Choose your own adventure to start with here,
Let's
Pat.
go with the Wolves. I thought that was a nice win finally. The Houston is the surprise team of the NBA as far as I'm concerned. They were going to be a non-playoff team, and they've had a great season. And they were coming off a loss, so and they had a day off, so you kind of thought you were going to get a big effort from Houston. Meanwhile, our guys were doing the old back-to-back, but. Uh, One of the better all-around performances we've seen from our Timberwolves last night, didn't you think?
And
Definitely.
back-to-back
Yeah,
games,
yeah.
fantastic.
90 points in two
Yeah,
games, right?
not too bad.
So that's yeah, he's yeah. Those are two great games. And the other night, I don't know, the night before, how they managed to turn a 27-6 head start against that team into a deficit. That was a 5 point deficit. That was a weird contest. But last night they were good all night, and everybody. Connolly played great, and how about Clark? He's the he's
Yeah.
the story here, isn't it? Yeah, I remember when they introduced Dillingham and Shannon. Uh, Clark was showed up at the press conference there, and then because he was over practicing every day at the facility there across the Skyway, and then I went up and talked to him for a few minutes, and he was they were going to re-sign him. There was a few teams after him, and you just wondered how he was going to get a chance, and everything you heard was about what a great defender he was. He was apparently the National Defensive Player of the Year. I didn't even know there was such an award, but supposedly they're claiming that he was at
He was.
UCLA. And but he can make a shot too. He's definitely in Finchie's rotation because he can guard. That's why he's going to be in Finchie's rotation because he can guard people.
Also, the
So
way so Terrence Shannon Jr. got his first
yes.
actual non-garbage time play. It came in right away, hit a three in the corner, threw down a posterizing dunk. And with Finchie, the way he talks about Jaylen Clark and Terrence Shannon Jr., it feels like it takes a lot for young guys to even be acknowledged by Finchie. And he definitely has an affinity for Terrence Shannon Jr. and Jaylen Clark and whatever work they're doing behind the scenes. They are not in his doghouse. I think Dillingham is maybe not quite on that same plane, and certainly Leonard Miller never plays, but he likes those
Yeah,
guys.
Leonard, you must just think he's a kid, huh? Because some of my basketball guys, not people who are at the Timberwolves games all the time, but Terry Quincy and those guys, they love Leonard.
Yeah,
So and his ability, and they watched him in Europe, and they've watched him in other places, and they love Leonard. So, but Leonard's got to wait his turn there. It looks right now, but. Shannon, didn't you love Shannon in the Big Ten tournament last year? I mean, he
oh
was the
my
best
gosh.
best player in the Big Ten tournament. I said this is Ant Junior. He's a little bigger, he's a little thicker. He's 6'6", but he's got that kind of game that he's a muscle to the basket, and he spent what 90% of his time in Iowa this year, right? He's been down there a lot when he
He's been
wasn't hurt.
hurt. He's been hurt a
Yeah,
lot too. Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. I wrote the too much talent column in October. In October, what is he going to do? How's he going to get all these guys on the court? Well, he decided he wasn't. That was not what he was going to do. So anyway, to see Clark come out of the Netherland there and start to play, and now and maybe this will be maybe Shannon will get some time, huh? I don't know. I know I don't know what's going on here, but last night was a very good performance for the boys, so that was nice to see.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you see the reports that the Wolves at the very end, Patrick, tried to get in on Kevin Durant?
I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I think it's horse crap. So, but that's, you can throw that out there and that's fine. But get in on, what were you going to give up? You were going to go to the triple apron to get Kevin Durant?
Funny
Is
you
that
should
what
ask.
We're
you
gonna
were doing?
create a new apron. Yeah.
If you wanted Kevin
Triple H.
Durant, you should have kept Cat. All right, you should have kept Cat if you were going to get Kevin
That
Durant.
would have been, I think, financially an easier way to swap. I wonder if they made that phone call last year. I don't know if the Suns maybe weren't in a position to even entertain it until right now, where they're just floundering and they got three dudes making $50+ million a year, whatever.
Yeah, were they in on Bradley Beal? I bet they weren't getting many Bradley Beal phone calls.
He's
Well,
got no
didn't
trade. He
Bradley Beal
blocked it.
he blocked a trade to the Heat, right? He
Yeah,
could have gone to Miami, I
the
think, or
Butler
maybe
trade.
they
He
were going to
blocked
route
it.
him somewhere else.
I don't know. I'm a little worried about Ishbia ownership. We're very excited about Ishbia ownership across the plaza here, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's no salary cap though, Pat. Just bring on all the stars.
That's true. That is true. You can go and do anything you want to. But hey, we're so loaded. I hate to make this quick transition here, but we got rid of Mike Hellman, for goodness sakes. The Twins, they had so much talent.
Too
They had
much
to get rid
talent.
of They had to get rid of Mike Hellman. So they're behind the scenes here. They're just building a powerhouse.
Are we
By
going to
the
have a
way,
press conference for cash considerations,
I
or do we just?
don't
Just a
know.
load of
Just a
cash.
huge
But
pile of, just a big like
let me
$100.
let me ask you a question. We now are getting. Is it what is not baseball reference, but one of the stat outfits has declared the Twins favorites to win the Central?
Yeah.
Most.
Baseball
What?
prospectus. Yeah.
Well, they were smoking some weed too, for goodness sakes. Detroit's 8 times better than the Twins, and Kansas City's 8 times better than the Twins, and yeah, Cleveland's about the same. I don't like Cleveland like I liked them last year, but this is what are you using to this? This is they're doing. Stats based on Buxton and Correa playing 150 games apiece or something? Is that what we're doing here with our stats to
That could be
declare
part
the
of it.
Twins
Yeah.
favorites? Yeah. Anyway, back to the Wolfies. Yay! It's is this an indication? Should we? As I said a couple days ago, I mean, we've never had an up and down. What are we at? We're for them, we're against them, we're down on them, we're high on them. But right now, it's easy to be high on them after last night because I was predicting an 0-5 homestand a couple days ago. So
Now, don't now. I
anyway,
think Portland's the last leg here, right? And
yes.
Portland is on fire. They won again last night, so don't slip up with Portland here this weekend.
Who's playing good for them? Is my guy Anthony Simons
I think
playing
so. Let's
well
take a
for
peek
them?
here. Is
Yeah,
how's our guy Scoot Henderson?
yeah, well, that's right. Scoot too. We were
Scoot.
down. Everybody was kind of down on Scoot, but Scoot's doing okay. Anthony, I saw him play for the IMG against Florida Southwestern Junior College a couple years ago, and was absolutely blown away by that young man.
Yeah,
And
he's been their leading scorer this season ahead of. Oh, by the way, Shaden Sharp is another one that he's a 29-year-old kind of wing shooting guard from Kentucky. He was a top 10 pick, and
never heard of him. I
they're
can't remember him at all. Man,
yeah. I
alive.
mean, he's been they kind of slow cooked him as a rookie 2 years ago, but he has now become very much an explosive offensive guy. They got some dudes. They got some dudes
Yeah,
on that
they
team.
do. Well, they were we assumed they were trying to lose, right? And get the good draft choice, and then all of a sudden they started winning some games. Sugan actually had this in his column today, and it's when you look at the West and how some of these teams loaded up and they're not playoff teams. I mean, there's 12 teams in the West. It's
Yeah.
pretty incredible, and that doesn't account Portland, yeah, which is playing better. It's has I don't know if there's ever been there's been conferences in the NBA that had 2 or 3 teams at the top that were better, but there's never been a one this deep. I don't think.
Yeah, no, you're right.
A
And
conference.
even like even like the Pelicans, who are one of the 2 worst teams, or the Jazz, those are teams that record wise you say, oh boy, they're garbage. But if they have a full allotment of healthy players any
Mhm.
given night, there's really good players on those teams too. It's crazy.
They really would like to get rid of Williamson, that guy, but nobody wants that fat ass. But
We need him and
lazy,
Luca to play
I was going to
together.
say,
lazy
Maybe
yeah.
bum.
train
What about the
Yeah,
together.
but
Lakers?
Like Rocky 3, they can run the beaches.
Great buffet table.
Luca's an Iron Man compared to this guy.
Yeah,
He's
that's
a
true.
what a load he is. What a fraud. And if he dunks in a game where they're getting beat by 20, they show it on ESPN. Man, they're still trying to sell us that Williamson is. Okay, I got a tirade, another tirade that has
Yeah,
nothing to do with but this gets us to the Vikings. Okay,
sure.
and the awards yesterday. But I'm in the car this morning and I'm listening to Score North of 1500 having a talk show, and this clowns that we have on at 9 o'clock are attempting to say how horrible it is that Lamar Jackson didn't win the MVP, that Josh Allen won the MVP, and how can he not finish in the top three? Uh, he But you know what their story would have been? You know what their conversation would have been had Lamar Jackson won it and not Josh Allen? How can Lamar Jackson be the MVP when Josh Allen took a worse team and beat him and took it further to the finals? They would have just done a 180.
Yeah.
But Lamar Jackson was not the MVP. He had the best team in the NFL, and he didn't get out of the final eight. So Josh Allen was the MVP, and to rip the voters for making Jackson the player of the year and the MVP, unlike baseball, they define MVP, right? The NFL, they got two awards. They got the MVP and they got the player of the year. Always in baseball for 100 years, we've had the debate. Is it the MVP, the guy who did the most for a winning team, or is he just the best player in the league? And I think the voters got it right. Lamar Jackson had a fantastic uh, statistical season, all that. But Josh Allen was more important to Buffalo than Lamar Jackson was to Baltimore when you consider that they beat them. So
Yeah,
it's
I agree, and I'll add something to it. If you've got two players who are both awesome,
yes,
Lamar and Josh Allen, both having incredible seasons, putting up ridiculous statistics, and their teams both get to the playoffs and they win double digit. It's a regular season vote.
hmm
One of them's going to edge the other.
yes,
And like, I guess I don't understand when it's that close and we're talking about two just crazy seasons, how there could be outrage over one or the other.
yes, right.
You know?
I agree with you on that. But I just think I've always said MVP is most important on a winning team. Now, sometimes it didn't go out that way. I mean, like Ernie Banks won two MVPs when the Cubs were finishing seventh, in a league. And sometimes you can have such enormous statistics and you can be the MVP. But as I said, the NFL gives both awards and they're correct. Now, I got another theory on O'Connell being the coach of the year. The more I thought about it, the Vikings' last two performances showed us how good he had to be to get to 14-2 with this team. So I have no trouble with him being the coach of the year
Yeah.
because we saw all the flaws the last two games, especially both ways against the Rams. Now again, it's a regular season vote, but you can, to me, the last two games proved he was the coach of the year because how in the hell did he win 14 games with this collection? So,
Yeah. With Darnold, yeah,
mhm.
100%.
Not only Darnold, but, okay, the defense was good, but a very flawed team, as we found out. So good for him. Although, who's never won that award? Andy Reid.
That's the funny thing. Yeah, like Phil Jackson in the NBA, and how many does Greg Popovich have?
Oh God! Every time they finish above 500, they voted for Pop.
Do they?
He
Okay,
might
that's
win
fair.
it. He might. Oh, maybe I'm wrong, but I was going to say Pop might win it this year, and he's not even coaching.
But
But
Andy Reid has been in the 25 years he's been a head coach. In half of them, you could argue he should be in the mix for NFL Coach of the Year, just
yes,
because. But well, it's he's
well,
supposed to win 13 games,
he's
so
being punished for having Mahomes as his quarterback. Right?
yeah.
He can't be a coach of the year. He's got Patrick Mahomes. Well, how about being smart enough to covet him, Mahomes, more than anybody else in that quarterback draft, to basically trade up and say, I got to get this guy because he was not universally saluted when he ended up drafting Patrick Mahomes. So
Yeah, Popovich, by the way, does have 3 NBA Coach of the Year awards. So he has several NBA Coach of the Month awards too. It's
Oh, that's
big
gotta be
trophy
exciting for him.
closet. Yeah,
Pop's gotta love that.
big. He's a big November and December Coach of the Month guy, according to his resume.
and another theory, this came to me today too, when O'Connell won. I say, despite the complaints, we're in pretty good coaching territory right now with our major entities in town. I'm talking the pros. I got no problem with Finch. I think he's the best they've had in a long time. Tibbs, he's got fewer flaws than our guy Tibbs, who I love. But Tibbs is Finch. He can get along with people, which is an advantage, right? But the people who want to rip Finchy, you know, they don't know what's going. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, whether
You don't
this
think
guy can
Finchie
play
could
or
have
not.
put Jaylen Clark in a game a month and a half ago? Just a little criticism.
Yeah,
Just
well, I think he
maybe
could have. I think he could have done these
didn't
things,
need to
but
wait
this
40 games for
this
Mike Conley to hit
idea,
a clutch time
yeah,
shot.
yeah, but every time they lose a bad game, it's the NBA. You look around now, everybody's losing bad games. Uh, People get mad at him. I think he's fine. I think Rocco's fine. I don't blame Rocco for 12 and 27. I don't blame him for anything he did there. He's fine. And Hines over in St. Paul's fine. I think we're in good shape. And Cheryl, of course, we got to do an
I was gonna
ode
say
to Cheryl
Cheryl.
every time. If you don't believe Cheryl's great, ask Cheryl. But it's, to me, the idea that we're in some kind of trouble with some of our coaches here is I think that we're in pretty good shape. My opinion, and
I think Judd's thinking, stewing to himself. He'd like to fire at least 2 of them right now.
No, I'm
yes,
fine.
right,
No, no,
If I'm
no,
right.
reading
no,
Judd
no.
right.
I'm fine. I'm fine. No, no. Rocco is on
Rocco, let's fire him a
probation.
little bit. Yeah.
Rocco's on probation a little bit, but besides that, no, I'm fine.
Rocco is yeah. Well, I think that the commitment from ownership is kind of gives you a better it puts Rocco in better stead right now. We got other things to worry about more. The Twins got other things to worry about more than Rocco. By the way, if the payroll's supposed to be what are we now, Declan? We're over 140 now, right? We're
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
140,
Right at it.
140, 141, 2, something like that. If that's they either are getting ready to sell, and it's going to happen fairly soon, or they're going to trade Pablo, and then all hell's going to break loose. I think that's the reason that Rocco came to Twins Fest and said Pablo's my opening day starter, before these guys could trade him out from underneath them. But I don't think that will stop them if the ownership, if they aren't close to making their trade and they really want to have $125 million payroll. What other option is there?
Yeah, he didn't give Willie Castro the same assurance of saying he's my opening day utility guy. Don't trade
No,
him either.
they they thought that I think they thought they could move Willie, but that I don't think there's the hot market for Willie. I mean, Willie was fine, although speaking of MVP, that's one of the stupidest things a group of sports writers has ever done. Vote Willie the MVP of the Twins, for God's sakes. That was ridiculous. I mean, didn't anybody watch the last 6 weeks of the season?
Yeah, he kind of
Who
got
wanted
blown out
to?
there.
No,
Didn't
I
Yeah.
should have
anybody
tuned
ever
out.
watch him play center? Yes, he played center field. Unfortunately, so I mean, Willie was fine. He was a contributor, but when you look through the list of MVPs in Twins history locally, everybody's going to say, "Boy, that must have been a rotten team." Willie Castro being the MVP. Come on, that was a bad decision by our group. Should have been
Yeah.
Griffin Jacks.
Yeah, should have been Jax.
Yeah, probably should have been. But now Willie Castro will be he'll be on a plaque for the rest of Twins
He'll be coming back
history.
to
Target
Twins Fest
Field.
in his 60s to sign, and it's going to
Yes.
cost you.
Seems
Former
like,
Twins MVP.
by the way, did you see they're having a 1965 reunion?
Yeah, who's left?
I
Wow.
don't know. Me.
Please welcome Patrick Reusse, who
He'll
Yes.
tell some stories about everyone else who play on the
This
team.
is I can write 9 columns on that reunion, but I'm the only one left who can. For God's sakes,
you're not
many
wrong.
left. My Al Worthington, who's married to my cousin, he's still left, but Al's 90. He's the oldest living twin now that Slick died.
Yeah.
So I think he's 93 or so. I don't think we'll get him and cousin Shirley
Who
back
was
for
the
this
trying to think,
one.
who was the youngest regular player on that team at the
Wow.
time?
I
I'm
don't
going
know.
through Baseball
Forbes-
Reference.
Well, last time they
Jim
did
Cott
this,
was only 26.
yeah, Cott's, and Cott's healthy. He's in good, he's still playing golf every day and he's in good shape. But he might, here he is. Here,
Here's Kitty.
not only is he representing the 1965 Twins, he's the only surviving member of the
And
1965
they
Twins.
brought him back last year when they did that thing for the Senators, because he was like the sole
Yes.
surviving guy from
Yeah,
the
from the
last
Senators,
Senators
yeah.
team before they. So like Cott's now the default guy that they just bring back because he's still alive.
Yes, that's now when they did it for 50, I got to sit down and BS with Mudcat for about 3 hours one day. It was fantastic. He was great, but Mudcat's no longer with us. So,
And most of the position players are dead, right?
boy, I can't think of who's alive.
Zoilo,
Yeah, Zoilo is-
passed.
Oh,
Quilisi,
Bob
Zoilo long
Allison,
ago, Earl
Harmon.
Batty long ago, Harmon, of course.
Here's a trivia question
Tony
for you
O.
guys.
Well, Tony O.
Okay.
Tony O.
He's got to be
Okay.
pushing upper 80s.
Yeah, he's doing
How many? Here's a trivia question. How many on the 1965 Twins team? How many Twins received an MVP vote?
Well,
Zoilo
I
won
would
it.
think Zoilo won it, and he shouldn't have. But he had
Yeah,
Zoilo,
he won it.
Zoilo hit 265, but he played good against. I don't know how he got. I mean, he had a hell of a season.
He
for
led
him,
the
but
league in
hit
like
265.
doubles and runs scored and
Am I
total bases.
wrong? He hit 265. That's how I recall.
He hit 273 and led the league in total
Okay,
bases.
Okay, all right. I mean, he was a good player, but Tony was the Sporting News Player of the Year, which they did their own. They still do, but back in the day, that had some influence because the baseball writers didn't have a Player of the Year, but
They had 6, by the way, 6 guys. Earl Batty, 10th in MVP
Harmon.
voting. Harmon was 15th. Oliva was 2nd. Jimmy Hall was 13th.
mhm.
And Mudcat Grant was 6th
I
in
think-
MVP voting.
I think Jimmy's still alive. Jimmy is. I think he's still alive. He was the
86.
guy. He was the guy that was bitter when they either they wouldn't pay him or I'd have to go back and look at what I wrote. But I went down and saw him. That might have been 20 years ago. Though I went down there and saw him in North Carolina because he would never come back for any reunions or anything. He was what we call an odd duck. He was a veteran though. He was a military veteran. He had to serve like 2 3 years, and then he came back and he came out of nowhere. He was not expected to, and when he hit 33 home runs.
Yeah.
What year was it?
His rookie
63 or
year,
4?
63.
It was the most home runs hit in the American League by a player who had never had an at bat
Wow.
before before that. So that was, home runs were not as frequent as they are today.
He's got to
So,
come back now, though.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like
we
he's
need
one of the
we got to
last.
find at least
Jim,
7 of
Yeah,
you. Come
Jimmy, you
on,
got to
guys.
come back. Everyone else is
Jim,
dead.
Come
we
on,
need
buddy.
3 of you, for goodness sakes. Come on, Jimmy. Let's come
All right,
back.
Pat, before we go here, give us a quick Super Bowl prediction. Who wins? Eagles or Chiefs?
Boy, I was talking to my son, Chris, who's an expert on these things, and he likes the Eagles, but I like the Chiefs somehow. I don't know how. I like Mahomes a lot more than Hurts, but B, I think we can find out in the first quarter if Barkley can, if they can't stop Barkley, the Eagles are going to win. But I don't know. I like the Chiefs. I like the Chiefs to have the ball with 3 minutes to go and need a field goal to win it, down 22-20, and you'll get them down there and they'll kick a field goal. They'll throw a 6-yard pass to Taylor Swift's boyfriend and about 3 different times for first downs and get down the field and somehow become our first 3-time winners. 3 in a row winners. I don't know how, but I was really rooting for the Bills, and I don't usually root for that. I was rooting for the Bills, but now I kind of hope the Chiefs win. It's fine with me. I think Mahomes is should be a legendary character. He's a legend now, no matter what happens. And Andy
Yeah.
Reid, and maybe I suppose winning 4 Super Bowls for Andy will make up for never being the coach of the year.
I
I
think
don't
he'd
know.
rather have those. Yeah,
Where do
I
you
think
guys?
so.
Who do you like?
I'm kind of back to the Eagles.
Hmm.
The Eagles are the
They,
roster. It's like the Eagles roster is ridiculous. It's the best run
yes,
game in recent NFL history, unstoppable. But then they're going up against the best coach of the generation,
yeah.
the best quarterback, the best tight end, best defensive coordinator. Yeah,
If it,
it's
if it's a 2 touchdown game, the Eagles win.
Yes.
The only way the
Yeah.
Chiefs are going to win is if it's a nail biter.
I like the Chiefs because the Eagles deserve nothing good. Those jackass fans.
jackass.
They're
Jackass.
jackasses. They are the most
I don't know.
obnoxious group.
They gave me a lot of laughs, man.
Oh yeah, they did.
Every time I walked across the parking lot, and they accused me of not being heterosexual and being very
And throwing
overweight,
beers,
and
full
throwing
beers.
throwing stuff at you. Yes, it was always a. I'd get there early
Yep.
just to take a lap through those crazy
Yep.
SOBs. They were. I told you, Monday Night Football, 9:10 kickoff. Herschel Walker against the Cowboys, the drunkest, craziest mob of humanity I have ever been around in my life, and that includes Bourbon Street on the
Oh
evening before
God,
Super
yeah.
Bowls. Yeah,
And it's all of them. Men,
yes,
women, children. They're all loaded and they're all jackasses.
yes,
Yeah,
they are.
jackass.
Yes, they are. But it's funny. This is the glory years of the Eagles, really, the last decade, because I mean, they had about a 40-year slump after Norm Van Brocklin won the
Yep.
championship for them. They were terrible. So
Yep. All
anyway,
right, Pat. Well, enjoy the game, and we
all right,
will recap it next week.
all right, gentlemen. See ya.
There he is,
Bye.
Reusse Unchained, Score North.